Hello, hello, hello to my party people out there in Radio Land. Welcome to this week's transmission. This week's topic is happiness equals wholeness. So there is a lot of talk about happiness, right? Everybody got something to say about happiness, what it means, how to get to it, right? The essence of life and what brings happiness and how do you define it and all of that. I'm not talking about that today. I am saying simply that the emotion of happiness signifies wholeness in your soul. That's what it means. So when you are unhappy, it is because you are unwhole. Right? A piece of your soul is not intact. That is what that means. That is why being unhappy is such a painful sensation, because you are expected to be whole in this manifestation, in this 3D life. Now, of course, nobody can be happy all the time. That's not how the game of life is even set up. There are a multitude of other emotions to explore, right? There's different levels to everything. Happiness is not the only emotion that you should aim for, right? But remember, emotions are just meant to be experienced anyway. So technically you ain't supposed to aim for it, because if you allow yourself to be in the moment and things to just flow, then you will offer no resistance to what is, no matter what the circumstances or situation being presented to you are, and you will naturally be happy. You'll naturally be whole. So that's my little piece about, because I don't want people to be like, well, you can't be happy all the time. It's unrealistic. True, but it's also unrealistic to feel anything else all the time, right? To be mad all the time, to be sad all the time, to be depressed or frustrated. That's unwholeness, right? You're not whole. And going back to the piece about kids, those are our best teachers, right? The people who have been on this earth for the least amount of time and who are the least tainted and who are the closest to the creator and spirituality, and who offer the least amount of restrictions and resentment, who harbor the least amount of resentment toward life, are kids, right? They're not really putting up a fight. They don't really question anything. Everything just is, right? They live in the moment. Kids don't stay unhappy long. So if you think about it, if a kid, no matter what happens to a kid, it could be the most extreme situation. We've seen that. I've seen it just even playing out in the media, and in even, in your life. You've seen kids go through just horrible situations, and then somehow, not long afterwards, they're able to smile. They're out running and playing. It could be damage to their physical bodies. It could be, emotional abuse. It could be, you name it, trauma, kids in war zones, kids growing up in poverty, like, not just literal war zones, but financial war zones, right? Cultural war zones, because the United States has plenty of those in the inner cities. Don't get it twisted, right? They basically war zones, right? But to still see kids be happy and running and playing and not holding on to the low vibrations that come with being unhappy. See, because that's the thing. Nobody tells you that. People are like, most people ain't happy. That's, first of all, let's just start with that. Most people are just mediocre, neutral. They're just kind of bobbing through life, treading water. You know what I'm saying? In an emotional sense. That's all they doing. They don't really aim high, right? They don't aim to be really happy, because they know that, one, it takes work, and two, that there's a risk that you may not hit your goal, or you may not achieve that. So they want to play it safe. And also they are hovering between that, right, and depression. I think I saw some numbers a couple weeks ago saying like most people are like clinically depressed. You know what I'm saying? So most people, they don't know nothing about happiness. They have no idea. So that's why in, Western society, it's so odd to see a happy person, right? You look at them like, oh my gosh, she's crazy. If you just walk down the street laughing to yourself, people will think that you're crazy. That's a problem. That means that this culture is one that frowns upon happiness. It's one where happiness is unexpected. It's not considered healthy, quote unquote, mentally or normal. It's like, why are you so happy? What you smiling for? I'm like, dang, I'm alive. I have my health. Like, I'm good. The sun is shining. Like, why do I have to explain why I'm happy? Whereas if I were miserable, depressed, nobody would question that, because that's life, right? Life just supposed to be like that. Life hard, that's normal. No. So most people don't have no idea what happiness is, which if you have never had something, you don't know what you're missing. So they don't realize that by being unhappy for so long, right, allowing themselves to hold on to those vibrations, not just visiting that emotional state, which is normal, right, it happens, but by allowing themselves to wallow in that state, they are inviting in lower, more unwanted vibrations, right, things that vibrate on that level. That's why they say it's a slippery slope with unhappiness, with misery, depression, because you just get deeper and deeper and deeper in, right? It is a bottomless pit. Once you stop seeing the light, like, things just get progressively worse, because let's be honest, there are a lot of things in this life to be, unhappy about, right? If you want to be unhappy, you got it, right? That check has been written, signed, delivered, like cashed. Like, that's why it's best to be optimistic and to look for the good things in life, because otherwise you will be unhappy. That's how the game is set up, right? But it's up to you to beat the game and to see that you have the power to choose to be happy and to choose to be optimistic and to choose to look on the bright side of things. So all of that factors into being whole. So most people are incomplete. Yes, I'm saying that. Most people are unwhole. They're walking around with holes in their souls, emotional holes, and they don't even realize it. Now, let me tell you how I know this for a fact. Because they have holes. Because guess what? When you have a hole that you don't want, what's the first thing you try to do? You try to fill it. That's what you try to do. What you try to fill it with? Well, the things that are either easiest or the most widely available, right? So something that's either right there at your disposal or something that you got a whole bunch of. Excuse me. So let's think of a literal hole in the ground. Okay, you got a hole in your backyard. You don't want it there. You're probably going to fill it with dirt. Why? Because it's a bunch of dirt. That's the first thing, that's available to you, right? That's what came out of it, dirt. Also, or you might say, well, I'm going to fill it with sand or rocks, all that. Now, your backyard may not have those items, but they are plentiful. You know that you can go to Home Depot, you can go wherever, and you can get a bunch of them, and they're cost effective, right? They cheap. So, people who are unhappy have holes because they are constantly trying to fill them with things. That's why you have alcoholism. That's why you have drug addiction. That's why you have sex addiction. All of this, people are addicted to caffeine, sugar. I mean, you name it. People find things to be addicted to today. You could be addicted to anything. I mean, and again, it's set up that way. It's Western society, so they want you to be addicted. They want you to be distracted, right? Because if you're addicted, you're distracted. If you're distracted, you're not working towards your purpose, right? You're not shedding light. You're not bringing light into the world. You're not living up to your full potential. That's what the powers that be want, right? They want you to be filled with holes that you can never, ever, ever fill. And that's why you have people who go from one addiction to the next, right? So let's say they have childhood trauma. Now, my personal theory that I will believe until proven otherwise, which I just know from my own analytical skills, psychic abilities, all of that other stuff, personal experiences, most people who are morbidly obese, quote unquote, or overweight as adults are trying to cope with childhood trauma. Right? When things happen to you as a kid, you deal with them in the best way that you know how. And sometimes people choose drugs, but for a kid, it's easier to choose food, right? To be comforted, right? That's why we have comfort foods. So a lot of people, let's say, okay, you go through childhood trauma or abuse, right? You have a hole. You hadn't gotten help. Nobody got you help. So you eat. That fills a hole. But guess what? You don't stop eating because there's never enough. So let's say you somehow, you go on a diet, you shed the weight. First of all, you ain't going to keep it off because you haven't healed the the issue that caused that. But let's say you do. Then, because you haven't healed that issue, you didn't, transfer that to something else. So now you, instead of overeating, you are an alcoholic. And then from there, oh, this is bad. So now I do drugs, and now I do this, and now I'm a shopaholic. Now I'm addicted to caffeine. See, all of these different moving pieces to the same puzzle of your unwholeness, right? Your unhappiness, right? It's not that, oh, people are greedy and don't want to stop eating. I don't believe that at all. I don't believe that anybody would knowingly, willingly put themselves in a situation to have to pay more for clothes, to be physically unhealthy, to be mistreated, picked up on. I don't believe that for a second. People are hurting. You see people who are overweight because they're hurting, the same as people who are addicted to drugs, right? The same as people who are who have low self-esteem and who allow themselves to be victims of domestic violence and all of that. They are hurting. They are unwhole, right? They are unhappy. Now, does happiness is that the cure-all for their holes? Yes and no. Of course, just telling them to be happy ain't gonna do it. They have to heal, right? But that healing starts internally. It starts with us. It starts with our thoughts, right? So once you heal from the inside, you slowly build your own self-confidence. You slowly put your soul back, and that's where the happiness comes from. And that's why at any second you can choose to be happy. At any second, no matter what you are going through, I'm living proof of this. You can crack a joke. You can choose to be happy, right? That's what's going to happen. Like a kid, no matter what you go through, you will be happy naturally if you allow it. Yeah, right? Your soul will bounce back. The only reason that it doesn't is because you decide to hold on to those vibrations. You decide to say, no, I'm just going to just wallow in this. But look at a kid. A kid can go through the exact same thing as you. Same thing, right? And they will just be happy 5 minutes later, right? Like nothing happened. Why? Because they allowed their vibration to naturally rise back to the top, to the surface. They allowed their soul to heal itself. They allowed themselves to be whole, right? Because that feels good. That feels best. It doesn't make sense to walk around with holes in yourself if you know that you can change it, and if it's unnecessary, and if it's something that you can, just at the drop of a hat, choose to heal. And kids know that. So, I don't want to make this too long. I hope this helps somebody. Remember, happiness is wholeness, and you can always choose to be happy no matter what's going on around you in the world. It's up to you, even in this moment, even if it's just for a second. So, thank you for listening. Have a magnificent week. Love, light, laughter. Bye.